Steve Wright from the University of West of England. I've known Steve a lot longer than that, from ST Micro days. He's the Associate Professor from Aerospace Engineering. After a 25-year career in systems of conventional aerospace, Steve Wright is now an Associate Professor of Aerospace Engineering at the University of West of England, known as UWE, where his primary focus is on developing novel UAVs or drones for a variety of commercial customers. Over to you, Steve.
Thanks, Mike. It's good to meet you. Good to see everybody. Good morning. Yes, as Mike said, I'm Steve Wright. There are a lot of Steve Wrights in this world, but this particular one, favourite game is drones. So just a bit of background. The challenge I want to lay down is quite simply, how do we put artificial intelligence into a drone and trust it? As you can imagine, that's quite a valuable thing. It's very similar to the automotive challenge, but the nature of the system itself gives it a few special cases there. So firstly, let me just introduce myself. As Mike said, yes, we go way back. I was actually at Rolls-Royce and Airbus for a long, long time. So I'm a systems and electronics and software engineer who happens to have spent his whole life in the aerospace industry, apart from my brief sabbatical in consumer. So all sorts of large-scale systems. But since I came to UWE, oddly enough, I've discovered more about aerodynamics and aerospace than I ever learned in 25 years in the aerospace industry, because of course you get into your silo. And particularly, since I've been at UWE, I've been heavily involved in this new wave of unmanned aerial vehicles, generally small stuff. Now, I can put a number on small. Small is 7 kilograms takeoff weight. And that is because of particular regulatory boundaries and things like that. Those boundaries are moving around quite a lot at the moment as it happens. But 7 kilos is quite a good rule of thumb. So doing all sorts of interesting systems, really, for commercial and military customers. And guess what? The military side of things is very much driving where the money's coming from. And it's very much driving, for example, the challenge I'm going to lay down today. So we typically develop technology demonstrators in the technology readiness level 4 to 6. So pretty low down as far as aerospace is usually concerned, given that we get to go flying quite a lot, because frankly, we can smash up a lot of drones. In fact, the system on my bench right now is probably held together with araldite putty after several, well, not so much held together, but more entirely composed of. But yeah, we're doing a series of projects, some civilian, mostly military. And so that's a typical day on the farm. Very simple control system, generally consists of a real-time flight control system, which we'll call the flight controls. And then something sits on top of that, generally communicating via a serial link, which we generally refer to as the MMU, Mission Management Unit. So that's operating in relative slow time. And that's typically doing things like optical and managing things like LiDARs and things like that, so we can navigate our way through the world. So I think you can see where we're going here. The flight control system here is a pretty deterministic system, which could be, in principle, certified using conventional aerospace techniques. At the moment, this can be anything. Literally, preferred weapon of choice at the moment is a Raspberry Pi. It's good enough, and it's cheap, and it's highly accessible. But there's lots of excellent artificial intelligence platforms coming out now. The big one that everybody's talking about is a thing called the Jetson Nano. Quick hand show. Has anybody heard of that thing? Yeah, great. So very exciting, because of course that gives us a artificial intelligence platform, which will fit in a drone, in one of these small drones. So here's my challenge. Here's the big slide. I want you, please, thank you, to verify a dynamically adaptive machine learning mission management system to plug into my drone. Yikes. That's pretty hard. And I want you to do it to DAL A, please. So that implies a 10 to the minus 9 catastrophic accident rate. So yeah, I don't know how that maps across to automotive, but in the aerospace domain, yes, that's 10 to the minus 9. So that's hard, and it's too hard for today. So with that in mind, my challenge, let me break it down a wee bit. So firstly, we need to think about what we mean by reliability, and typically in aerospace, and this is very much true more and more in automotive as more and more capability comes along. We're always used to the idea of reliability coming as availability, but the big problem I claim with AI is very much one of integrity. In other words, making sure that the thing doesn't run amok. So usually we go around and we appeal to things like DO178C at the current edition at the moment, and we have all sorts of processes, testing methodologies and things like that. And then we generally come up with all sorts of interesting avionics architectures where people are cross-checking themselves, and we introduce dissimilarity and things like that. So to do that, I think about, well, how can we create a roadmap where at least we can get started down this road of certifying AI and verifying AI. So let's start, I propose we start with something we can probably do with current tools and techniques. Let's try and certify something to DAL C or D even. So in other words, we can probably do that with some sort of directed testing methodologies and things like that. And then eventually getting right through to our dynamically adaptive thing, which is a long way off, I claim. So what lies in between and what steps we can do? I appeal to you. I'm open to suggestions. Because certifying the AI itself, speaking to a variety of AI experts and machine learning experts, it's hard. And more to the point, it hasn't been looked at but in huge depth yet. Everybody's aware there's a problem. And so we've got the problem, people are aware of it, and people are on it, people are working on it, but it's a big task. So let's think about what we could do in the meantime. We could have some sort of fail-safe architecture. So when we have a system, we can have something monitoring it, and if the AI unit starts to run amok, we have some sort of conventional methodology with a Kanban architecture which pulls the plug. Fine. And of course that means, well, hang on, what about the availability? It isn't going to fall on somebody's head. We've got low availability there. So we can get around that by potentially reducing the severity. This particular drone is something we designed in-house at the university for teaching undergraduates. And my spec to the students that designed it was it had to bounce off an undergraduate's head without damaging the drone. I could write a risk assessment to fly that around in the lab. So we can look at it like that. So in other words, we're going to have to think about a whole system approach to all this. So we could take that a step further, where when the monitoring system pulls the plug, the reversionary unit takes over. But that's going to give us all sorts of caveats on the operational envelope of the drone itself. So it's going to heavily compromise the airframe, because we're going to have some sort of reversionary flight envelope that the conventional system can work with. But here's the great thing, the quest has already begun. DSTL, is there anybody working with Defence Science and Technology Laboratories? Yes. And DSTL are on it. DSTL have given money, and they are very interested in this issue. And in fact, we've started to investigate that, and one of the outcomes of that particular investigation was that yes, that CD aspiration is probably achievable with the tools and techniques we've got around us. So I challenge you, place your bets, because there are prizes for this. And when I say prizes, I mean there are cash prizes, very big ones. So therefore, I look forward to any suggestions about how we can put that artificial intelligence into a drone. Thank you very much.